Sports fans, get ready for Sportz-USA. Get sports from a personal point of view from seasoned professionals who've reported and lived the stories. Now let's go to the crew high atop the Sportz-USA press box. Hello, everybody. This is John Askins, and welcome again to Sportz-USA.com, an experience view of the sports news in the background that makes it pretty fun to cover. And we've got a lot of veterans with us, Kevin Long, Don Kearns, Bo Carter, Tom Russo. And with my experience, we're looking at about 200 years worth of sports media experience. Let's start about talking about a little bit of baseball. It is that time of year, beautiful in the South, not so beautiful back in the Northeast. So this is the time of year, Bo, that all the Northeastern colleges come south to play in a lot of tournaments. And unfortunately, that means sometimes there's a lot of blowouts. But you didn't see that last weekend, did you?
No, we've thank goodness for the indoor stadium like they have at Globe Life Field in Arlington. And they've got another 6-team tournament this week with like 4 top UCLA number 2, Mississippi State number 5, and just a cavalcade of top 25 teams, guaranteed no rainouts, too, so that's good.
Bo, and we've got another slate of tournaments coming up. I know that the Astros are hosting their annual tournament, and it looks like the Texas Rangers have really gotten into the college baseball business. They have 2 or 3 weeks in a row of tournaments.
They do. The one coming up this weekend has number 2 UCLA, number 5 Mississippi State, number 15 Tennessee, and just a cavalcade of really great ball clubs. And they've kind of had the very first one, they had like an SEC versus Big 12 matchup, and the SEC, 3 SEC teams went 6-3. So again, just shows the enormity of the talent in that conference.
Now, I know where you'll be this week over there seeing the Bulldogs from Mississippi State. I believe you're writing another book, Bo.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
It's called Tales of Mississippi State Athletics. I guess sports publishing has gone out of business, so we can resurrect the Tales book. And we've got the book completed. John, you guys will love this. Mississippi State has branding clauses or whatever and all their stuff. The athletic department will not release photos for the book to us, even for pay right now. I think they're afraid people are going to put them on eBay or whatever else. God. So we're getting photos from independent photographer. Wow. The book's laid out, ready to go, and we'll send you a complimentary copy when it comes out.
Well, I bet if Ron Polk was still over there, he wouldn't put up for that. I know you've got some Ron Polk stories. Give us a good Ron Polk story, Bo.
Oh, a couple of, well, the one of short, brief one, Coach Polk went to UAB for 10 years as a volunteer assistant coach with Brian Shoup after he left Mississippi State on one of his earlier retirements. And remember the NCAA no tobacco rule, and they were talking about, obviously they check in the dugouts, but they caught Coach Polk sneaking out to the far bullpen out there and smoking cigars.
Oh, yeah, he was a cigar smoker.
Among the relief pitchers. So I think he extinguished him when he saw the tournament director coming out there. So.
It's an amazing program that he built. And do they still have one of the largest stadiums now? Or have they been surpassed?
I think 11-3 permanent, and then they can get 14,500 with the suites. They took down the famous left field lounge. I remember they had the trucks and portable stands out there about 18 rows higher.
Cindy and I have been out there a couple of times out to Dudy Noble. It's just unbelievable. Fantastic college baseball stadium.
It really is. A
lot of fans may not be familiar with some of the great stories from college baseball because I'll admit it has been a regional sport sort of up until the last 10, 15 years. The change a little bit to help the Northeastern schools have helped them, and now we do see the Michigans and the Ohio States and some of the northern schools getting deep into the tournament. We had a surprise school last year get into the College World Series. Murray State, if I'm correct.
The Fighting Racers for the first time.
They were definitely a shock team, and they played really, really well. What I liked about them was they kind of had that tenacity that they just weren't going to give up no matter what the score, what the subject, what was going on. They went out there and did what they had to do.
Sometimes it just comes together like that magically. Coach K, you can talk about chemistry, and the chemistry sometimes outweighs the talent.
Yeah, John, I know personal experience in high school coaching, at least. I had a team that was barely 500 going into the tournaments, and we surprised everybody because the kids believed. They believed in themselves. They liked each other. They hung out together. And they just were family. And it really paid off in the long run. We end up going all the way to the finals. We got beat, but, they played their hearts out, played completely above themselves because, again, they believed in themselves and they believed in each other.
Kevin, talking about baseball reminded me of a story of one of our old cronies back in Amarillo, John Fedko. We can tell some stories about John Fedko. Let's give some context here. John Fedko was a sports anchor at one of the TV stations. Probably one of the most obnoxious guys that I've ever met. He was like, "Hey, Johnny baby, good to see you." The Mr. Hollywood type. Baseball season was starting, softball season was starting, and he was out on campus doing a stand-up for the 5 o'clock, news, and he was going live. And he's got the diamond behind him, and they're playing a game, and I'm in front of the camera, watching him set up, and then I step back, and he's doing his live report. And right in the middle of his live report, somebody hits a foul ball, and it comes right, and I go, John, and it hits him right in the head, about knocks him out unconscious on the air. And that's the kind of guy he was, wasn't he, Kevin?
Unpredictable, but, you're bringing back a story to me because I had something similar to me happen. I believe it was at St. James High School in Montgomery, Alabama. I was set to do a live shot on the field after the game. This was, for our late newscast. And I'm there interviewing the coach, and the sprinkler system comes on automatically. In other words, somebody doesn't put 10:30, it comes on. And all of a sudden, we're in the middle of an interview, and all of a sudden, there's water all around us, spraying us all with water crazy because the sprinkler system came on. And, nobody turned it on. It just came on automatically. But those things can happen.
Sounds like the rain delay in that Kevin Costner movie. What was the one where they didn't want to play the next day, so they went out and turned on the sprinkler?
Bull Durham.
Bull Durham, yeah. Guys, let's talk a little bit about Bo. What are some of the surprise teams that you think this year might be a Murray State?
That's a great question. It's fairly early in the season. Louisiana Tech's off to a great start. Sort of a sleeper, maybe a sleeper team that might be in there. They've had some great teams in the past. Never have made it to Omaha. You've got quite a. It's been so weird, John, from these tournaments. Florida State and Auburn have all beating up on each other. You've got a lot of 5-3 and 4-2 teams out there at the moment. But it's the Clemsons, the Floridas, the UT San Antonio swept Dallas Baptist last weekend in San Antonio, which was a big surprise. DBU was the prohibitive favorite to win Conference USA this year. So it's UTSA, made it to the Super Regionals a couple of years ago. They might be a team of destiny again.
Pull the curtain back a little bit. You're the executive director of the National Collegiate Baseball Writers Association, and you guys put out a top, was it 25 or top 30 poll?
Yes, top 25.
How does that work? How do you get from A to Z on that poll?
Thank goodness, John. At one time we had to hand count. We had 15 or 20 people on there. We had to literally hand count the ballots, and now we have it automated where people vote between mid-evening Sunday through about 11 or 11:30 Central Time on Monday, and then we get a report around noonish. So we were able to. One thing, we were getting a lot of contact from the East Coast people. You can imagine some of them are getting back on road trips, especially with the Big Ten and the ACC all over the place now. They're getting back home at like 3 o'clock in the morning and want to get out of the office before 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So we were able to get the poll out a lot earlier. And there's 33 voters nationwide on this, so it's really a pretty very fairly democratic poll, unlike some publications we won't mention.
One of the
in a cubicle somewhere.
I think one of the teams that I'll keep an eye on is the Rice Owls. Now,
yes,
those of you may remember that Rice won the College World Series, but now it's coming up on a generation ago in 2003. But I believe that they've got the guy that can get them going again, David Pierce. David has been the coach of the year in the Big 12. He was coach of the year at Sam Houston and I believe at Tulane. And, he was at the University of Texas. But David's got a lot of experience in Houston, being at Sam Houston and working under Wayne Graham at Rice, Rainer Noble at Houston. I think he could be a guy, and that could be a team to keep an eye on.
Well, Wayne Graham was such a legend there for so long. I think it was difficult in that transition after Wayne left for them to kind of get their footing. So I think David Pierce is the right kind of coach to come in at the right time. And like you said, he has experience in the Houston area, so he's able to get some local talent and make that team really, really strong. What do you think, Bo?
They've of course, Coach Graham had that great pipeline from San Jacinto. Coach Roger Clemens over there, and quite a great career there, and he knew every coach within a 100-mile radius of Houston. But I'm like John. David Pierce is really the guy. Has succeeded on all areas. And I know this.
I know that his University of Texas days didn't go quite as planned, but I think that was a little unfair, somewhat, to him. I think the stable was a little bare when he was there, quite honestly.
Yes, I was just about to say that was one of the unfortunate. Got Texas at the World Series one of the year he was there, and it's all about if you don't win a national championship or 50 or 55 games in baseball every year, they're kind of with you win or tie. Unlike certain people we know from Aggie Land and other good schools, the patience level at Texas is fairly short-lived.
Well, and speaking about patience, you go to John and I's alma mater at Texas Tech, and Tim Tadlock's had some great teams out there in Lubbock, but the last couple of years have been kind of lean. And do you think they're going to be able to turn it around at all?
I'm hoping so. They bought the $1 million softball pitcher from Stanford. They need to ferret some of that over to the baseball program.
My understanding is that Coach Tadlock's been kind of pushing back, didn't really want a lot of that stuff, that he still was old school and wanted to build, they only have a handful of NIL type players that they've brought in. They brought a kid in last year from Auburn that was supposed to be a really good pitcher, and it didn't really happen real well for him.
No, Tech's got away, and I'm a big Tim Tadlock fan. Ian Tadlock and Skip Johnson at Oklahoma grew up in Denton together, played Little League, Youth League baseball for years and years, and they're best of friends. Johnson's gone in one direction, and Coach Tadlock seems to be slipping a little bit, but hopefully they'll turn it around.
Well, they gave him a lifetime contract a couple of years ago, and and ever since then, it's been kind of downhill. I don't know about a lifetime contract, Kevin. What do you think about lifetime contracts in college sports?
I think they're wonderful if you're the guy who's getting it. But, other than that, it's kind of like I got a kick out of one of my favorite stories was when Notre Dame signed Charlie Weiss to like a 10-year contract, and then they realized he can't coach. He can coach when he's got Tyrone Willingham's players, but after that, he can't coach. And they're stuck eating that contract. So, sure, lifetime contracts are wonderful if you're the guy getting it.
If you're the guy getting it, it's a wonderful thing.
Tom, I saw that Texas A&M, gave their coach a big contract again. I thought they were done doing that, but he's got $60 million worth of guarantees again. And, based on what they did last year, I mean, yes, they were better last year than the year before, but I don't know that he proved to me personally that he deserved that kind of contract.
Well, I think, John, I agree with you. I don't think he's done anything yet to prove that. That being said, in today's day and age, with all the money drawing everybody out, going here, going there, I think they're worried about him leaving, and then they'd be stuck again with who they're going to get.
Where would he go?
Well, you know what? I don't know. Look at all the players that get signed that I'm wondering what have they done to get there. I think back to Quinn Ewers coming to Texas, and yeah, he played pretty good. His last year and a half there at Texas, but I got to tell you, the guy didn't play pretty much his senior year in high school. Signed a big NIL contract with Ohio State.
Right.
Goes to Ohio State, plays one snap for Ohio State.
Made $1 million.
2 years. 2 years, and the kid hasn't taken any snaps really of any importance, and then goes to University of Texas for big bucks. Based on what? I mean, what are these kids getting based? And it's the same thing with coaches.
Kevin had a good point last week. Revisit your discussion with Ed Cunningham about, you think that the transfer portal and this money would make it real easy for players to just go from one school to another. But that's turning out to be not the case, because if they've got a sweet deal where they are, it's going to be tough for them to beat.
Well, yeah, where are they going to go? And the other thing too, Ed, Ed has a good rapport with the head coach at Texas, Coach Sark. And Coach Sark told him, the players we want, we're keeping them here. The only players that are leaving are players that we really didn't want. Again, Texas has that kind of money. But, yeah, here's the point. For example, the new quarterback from Cincinnati at Texas Tech getting $5 million a year. I mean, if the quarterback coach starts chewing his butt up one side and down the other, what's he really going to do? Say, hey, you better be quiet or I'm jumping into NIL. And NIL says, good, wonderful. Where are you going to get $5 million a year at? So, yeah, they kind of got him by the short hairs a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's supply and demand, isn't it, guys? I mean, if you're not in demand, you better hunker down where you're at.
And you're telling me you don't think Elko has some demand out there after getting his team to the playoffs?
No. Yep. I mean, not the kind of demand of $60 million. I really don't. I mean, so just sort of follow that line of thinking. What school is going to come down and grab him? I mean, that's all I'm saying is that, yeah, I've heard the same agent speak over and over. Well, in this market, if we have a guy that's doing well, we got to lock him up. Well, that's agent talk. In reality, he won 2 more games than he did the year before. I guess that's pretty good, but I don't know that it's worth $60 million.
Well, I started out by saying I agree with you. I don't think that it's worth that kind of money. That being said, I think the concept was exactly that agent talk you're talking about. They want to hold him there so that he doesn't go anywhere else. Where could he go? I don't know how long Belichick's going to last at North Carolina, but I could see them wanting to get somebody. And he had some experience. I believe he was at Duke, right, out in that area, so he knows some of the recruiting traps and things in the North Carolina area. I could see him being a fit there if that ever happened. I don't know that it would, but you're asking for a name. I think that might be.
I think he'd be a great fit there if he got fired where he's at, right, Coach?
Yeah.
That's a pretty good price tag, though. I mean, when you start hanging those numbers out there, you just said it. You're right. who's going to walk away from it? You know, you're going to endure. You're going to do what you have to. And if I get fired, I'm going to walk away with a guaranteed contract and be able to do, you know, and then go look for something, you know, comparable. Right now, I think it's headed for implosion. You know, there's got to be a limit here. There's got to be a ceiling that realism has to come back into play sometime.
I hope it does. I hope it does.
Well,
I mean,
just
Jimbo
don't see
Fisher's
it,
making a
Coach.
lot of money to go fishing right now.
I mean, you know, the fact is, you know, you're paying players $5-6 million to play a game that 5 years ago they played for room, board, tuition, and laundry money.
And would play again if it all went away.
Oh, I mean, yeah, because that's what you know. It's the track. It's the line to get you where you want to be. You know, and if your goal is to be a professional, you're going to stay there and you're going to play. But right now, it's just getting so ridiculous. Like we talked last week, some of these guys, or maybe it was Bo and I talking last week. You know, some of these players are making more money now with nil contracts than they could ever expect to make on a pro level. You know, so it's borderline ridiculous right now. You know, I love
Coach,
it.
it's beyond borderline. It's over the line ridiculous.
Yeah, we're going back to the Wild West. I mean, the fact is, but now, you know, and again, I can remember, you know, when I was in college playing, you know, every day somebody would be threatened. Yeah, we're going to break your dinner plate if you don't straighten up and do this and this and this. You know, we're going to take away your scholarship. Well, that doesn't happen anymore. I mean, the fact that the players, it's the fox is guarding the hen house. So it's completely changed.
Well, once again, you know, we're Kevin. Do you think that there's going to be anything coming down the pike as far as this college football overseer is concerned? Right now, Bo, you can answer this too. The NCAA has just been had all its teeth pulled, and all the power has gone to the conference commissioners. Now, let me take you back to the 1980s. People might, I guess this is a good lesson that guys of our age can speak about. In the late 1980s, I went over and visited with Harvey Schiller. You might remember him. He was the commissioner at the SEC.
The colonel.
Before Roy Kramer. And I sat down with him, and as well as one of your friends, Bo, Larry Templeton, the athletic director at Mississippi State. Mm-hmm. And this is what they said. And this was like 1980, maybe 5 or 6 or 7.
Yeah.
They said that we do not want to share revenue with any school that doesn't spend as much as our schools do on football. That's what started this whole mess. And if you ask me, it's spiraled so much that it's gotten away. They can't put the genie back in the bottle now. Yep. They got their way. They have decided, you know, this is the way college football is going to be run. And unfortunately now, they've lost control of the what they were trying to do, because it's caused a lot of other schools to start pooling money and catch up to them.
It's beyond ridiculous. It's beyond ridiculous. You know, let me just give you I'm going to come up with 2 stories here. One, I got a kick out of this. I'm riding down the highway and I'm listening to one of the sports talk shows here in Dallas. And this was a number of years ago. And the sports commentator, I can't even remember his name, he's talking about how, Jimbo Fisher's on the hot seat. You know, he's got to be sweating it out now. You know that he's got to be really feeling the pressure. Well, at that point, if A&M had fired him right then and there, they'd have owed him $80 million. Do you think Jimbo's feeling that much pressure?
Well, it wasn't. When they fired him, they still owed him $77 million.
Yep. Well, I think it was 71, but who cares? I mean, it's
where the decimal is.
A ridiculous sum. And then here's another point we got into. You know, I remember, John, I sent you a little kind of a news item this week that showed the University of Alabama makes like $67 million in football. They make $25 million in basketball, and everything else loses money.
Right.
Everything. I saw that article too, Kevin. You're right.
Yeah.
So, it's almost like, where do we draw the line here? For example, I remember when all this Title IX stuff came in, and we're talking late 80s here, when you had, shall we say, men's basketball teams, and this all came up because the coach of USC sued the school because she wanted equal money with the men's coach. Right. Well, the men's program made tremendous amounts of money. Her program lost a bunch of money. And that literally is what the judge said when they went into court. You can't judge. It's apples and oranges. But here's what I'm getting at with the article I sent you. I remember when this first came into play, me and another sportscaster in Amarillo were talking one night, and we just said, the women are just going to have to find leagues of their own, like Texas Tech women basketball. Instead of playing, shall we say, in the Southwest Conference and playing a regional schedule, they need to get into leagues with Wayland Baptist and West Texas State and Eastern New Mexico and Midwestern State so they can have some sort of affordability to the whole thing. But you look at it that way, well, what the heck? Men's baseball, men's track loses more money than women's basketball. So are you going to say the men's baseball team, they got to get in the same league? I mean, it's really a tough call.
It's even more ludicrous than that now, Kevin. With the new ACC, you've got Stanford playing Duke in baseball and women's basketball.
Yeah, volleyball.
Bo, what happened to the plan of them playing all those games midway in Dallas? Did that not work out?
They never could really find a common. They were talking about playing most of them at SMU.
Right.
Obviously, baseball they'd have to play at a maybe DBU's facility or whatever. And to complement what John and what you and Kevin have been saying, the lawyers. Well, of course, the Ed O'Bannon thing started the whole thing 8 or 9 years ago once they opened that floodgate. And then the lawyers just were like licking their chops at all this stuff. Hey, we can sue everybody in the country over NIL. We can force no more redshirt seasons for transfer rules. And then the latest thing is the additional affected Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt and several other people. Now they're all trying cases to get people an extra year. I think they're like 46 jurisprudence cases right now to get people another year of eligibility and appealing them high. So
there's two
the
players.
attorneys are making out like bandits on this thing.
The NCAA has just cowered to any kind of legal challenge. Anybody sues them, they immediately just give in. And there's one player, I believe he's at Miami, that is going to go into his 9th year of eligibility.
That's correct.
And I saw another player, I believe it was at North Dakota or North Dakota State.
Montana. I think it was Montana.
He's going to go into his 8th year. Now, that is just asinine. And I assume that these players aren't good enough to play pro ball, and maybe that's their only way to try and make some money.
And this is on top of them making the weird rule a few years ago in football in particular. If you play less than 4 games in a year, you can still count that as a red shirt.
Right.
Yep.
Back in the old days, I'm sure Coach and Kevin and Bo, you guys remember, man, if somebody played a down in a game, their red shirt was gone. I remember some stories from Aggie players and Texas Tech players where it was bowl game and people got hurt and they pulled a freshman off the bench and threw him in the game, played a handful of plays, and
year.
he lost a year eligibility.
Burned his red shirt.
Yeah.
Well,
that doesn't happen anymore.
How about this, folks, that if you go to junior college now, you used to have to burn 2 years of eligibility.
That's right. That's what Pavia did. Yes.
And now you don't burn anything.
Bo, let's go back to what I was talking about in the late 80s. The SEC was the first league that said, hey, we don't want to play anybody, and we don't want to share revenue with anybody that doesn't invest the kind of money that we are.
That's exactly. It's a personal thing. And kind of segueing into this, the SEC and the Big Ten, I think ideally they could regional. We were talking about there could be another Southwest Conference. Regional Southwest Conference with 16 teams in it, et cetera. But you could, in a perfect world, several people have proposed a 2 super conference with 32 teams in each, and you'd have a perfect 16-8, 4-2-1 playoff model there. The only thing I'm trying to figure is who do you get to play for the other 3 or 4 non-conference? Who wants to be eaten alive by a team that's got 3 times the budget? You go pay make $1 million for being a sacrificial victim.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of New Mexico states and liberties that will go and play somebody to get pummeled for $1 million, $1.5 million, and that's a great percentage of their season's athletic budget at those mid majors. And speaking of mid majors, guys, what do you make of the this last week? The Pac-12, announced their revamped schedule, and in the Mountain West, they responded by getting North Dakota State to come in. What do you make of the the so-called Group of 5 schools maneuvering to add, schools for the TV money, and really, although what they're doing is they're getting an entry fee from these schools, I guess that's going to pad the budget of the present institutions.
Here's all I got to say about all this league. You're talking about Stanford playing Duke. When I was covering the SEC, back when used to see Bo from time to time there, but it was a ton of fun anytime I covered an Alabama or Auburn game, because it did not matter if it was girls basketball, gymnastics, track, football. They were playing a team that was from relatively close enough that their fans could drive. And so, when you'd see, shall we say, let's just say LSU playing Auburn, I always remember this. The hotels on Friday nights were just chock full of LSU people that were going to the game the next day. And we go right down the line with other sports too, where you're going to have fans from the other team because they're close enough. But, are you going to have people from Stanford or California going out to Tobacco Road to root on their teams? Not unless they got Elon Musk type money.
The end of the year and it's a national championship or a big bowl game or something, that's the only way you're going to get these folks to travel.
Well, even this year, as an example, Bo, didn't you see the bowl when it got down to the college football championship? The bowls still weren't selling out.
No, there were a couple of 2 bowls in the Dallas area that had 8,567. So they're all made for ESPN at this point. They're owned by ESPN. Yeah. Yes, exactly. If they can sell 35 commercial inventories for them, they'll play in Timbuktu with 2,500 people in the stands.
Well, and you brought up them bringing these new schools in or bringing them up from Division I AA like North Dakota State. That brings up an NCAA rule that is, I never knew the reason why it existed, but if you come up from 1AA, you're not eligible to go to any type of postseason play for, is it 2 years? I know it's at least 1 year.
It's 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Right.
What is the purpose of that? If you're a big boy enough to go to the big leagues, you ought to be able, if you qualify, to go on.
Well, Tom, unfortunately, it's what I just mentioned. They can't challenge for the conference championship, and they have to pay millions of dollars to the other schools to get in their league. So what it is it's a cash grab by the schools that are already in the league.
And it just doesn't make any sense why a North Dakota State, who is a perennial power in the 1AA FCS range, why they would want to go up. I know it's all about money, but now they're going to have 2 years where they're not going to get any postseason play. They're not going to get any postseason love, regardless if they go 11-0 or 12-0. It doesn't matter. That seems a little drastic to me. That's my take.
Well, Kevin, let's move into an area you love, college basketball. Some of the major stories. Texas Tech lost the Player of the Year in the Big 12, and as they go to the playoffs, how do you think, and Bo, how do you think that the selection committees are going to view a team that's lost their star player?
I just don't even know that they view it any different. I mean, when Hank Gathers got hurt, did anybody say, Hank's down, we gotta give Loyola Marymount a easier road? I just don't even. I think it's almost a moot point, John. Now, having said that, watching Texas Tech is like watching the fever chart of a malaria victim, because I mean, they beat Duke in New York City.
Yep.
They beat Arizona out in Arizona. I mean, they're beating some incredible. They beat Houston. They're beating some incredible teams, and then they'll turn around and lose to some mediocre team. And it's almost like, go figure. So I guess that's what'll make the NCAA tournament great, once we get there, that, about anything can happen. And we'll see, because for years I've said that, and for years those old overdogs, people like Duke and Michigan and whatnot, they're the ones who show up at the Final Four. So, it ought to be kind of interesting, to see what all happens there.
Bo, don't they hold injuries accountable in the college football playoff?
Yes, and that before, to Kevin's point too, with about a week left in the season, every Division I conference sends a sort of a sheet. Well, it's
wounded list.
one page document that says, "Hey, Texas Tech. Here's what's going on. Texas Tech has lost J.R. Toppin for the season, but has still been 3-2 since then. But definitely deserves. It's sort of like a tout sheet for the teams that are trying to. The teams are on the bubble, and honestly, the committee takes some of that into effect. They said, "Hey, Tech's been playing the last 6 games without J.T. Toppin, but they're still 3-3, and as Kevin said, beat Duke and beat Arizona." So they try to look at that whole body of stuff and not making excuses, but they look at what some extenuating circumstances that might, or they lost their last 3 games, but they were playing without their point guard prior to the.
Well, it affected. Was it Florida State in college football a couple of years ago? Or yeah, where they lost their quarterback right at the end of the season. They had an undefeated season, and they don't make the playoffs. That was crazy.
That was one of the more bizarre things I ever heard of.
Yeah,
against North Alabama of all. They're playing a throwaway game.
Nuts.
They lose.
Coach, I have a question for you. When you have a star player, and every team typically has a player that's the majority of the weight of the team, or the bulk of their scoring, or what have you. When you have a player of that magnitude get an injury like J.T. Toppin has, and he's out for the rest of the year, as a coach, how do you motivate the rest of those guys? Because it's got to deflate like popping a balloon that, oh my God, here's this guy that scores 25, 30 points a game and he's gone. How do you overcome that as a coach?
No, it's the next man up syndrome. And the fact is, everybody's got to believe. We went back to what we talked about earlier, the team chemistry. That they're the ones that you've gone to all season long. He's been the go-to guy or the go-to gal. But, other players have roles that they've played that they can modify those to where they can move in and fill some of the gaps that have been created by the loss of a star player. It's the fact that you challenge them. It's an adversity, but we overcome adversity. We've been overcoming adversity all year long. Every game, you have to step up and play your best. Now you've got to step up even higher and you just challenge their abilities to say, you know what, you can do it. The fact is, yeah, it's a great loss, but our season's not over with. You guys have a lot of responsibility. Take charge, take responsibility for it.
Yeah, I like that next man up. It is I don't know if that's what you were going to say, Kev. What were you going to say there?
Pretty much so. Pretty much so. Next guy up, I have to do it. I'll tell you something. I was once talking to a very prominent college coach whose name I better not mention. But he said to me something, but it's true. He said, you're on a basketball team and they put 5 guys out there to play. 5 guys out there that they're starting 5 or they're the 5 guys. Do you really think those 7 guys on the bench are rooting for those 5 guys? Or are they hoping they screw up so they can get in? So, it's a viable point, I think.
All right, guys, let's go to our favorite segment, Scattershooting. And, we'll talk about things that are just coming through this way and coming out that way. Coach, what's your Scattershooting moment this week?
I'm still with the nil thing right now, because the fact that it's just, it's unbelievable. Schools are spending $30, $40, $50 million on athletes that it's just unbelievable. I mean, and right now between the SEC and the Big Ten, it's almost out of control. And that's just the above board money that we're seeing. All the little side deals, the slip here and there. I was reading something today. The old day of slipping the envelope with money under the door is gone. Now it's all out in the open. Well, that's not totally true. There's still a lot of stuff going under the doorway right now.
There still is. There's big-time money that is not being reported. And, Kevin, you were talking about it last week. We've even got players that are getting big bucks. They blow through the money, and then at the end of the season, they're going back to their coach saying, hey, you didn't pay me enough, right?
Yep.
Because they have to report that to the IRS.
I guess, but, with the money these guys are making these days, you'd think it'd be tough to go through it, but they do. How does Antoine Walker make $115 million in 13 years in the NBA and end up broke? Well, there's a lot of ways. That classic movie, How Did You Go Broke? 2 ways, gradually and suddenly. Because I heard Antoine Walker talk, and, he was talking about how, first off, it's $115 million. Well, Uncle Sam comes in and grabs pretty close to half of that.
Right.
Actually grabs 39% of it. Okay, then, you got to pay your agent, you got to pay your lawyers, and then it's outrageous, all the people who are hangers-on who are looking at you as their meal ticket. Because I know this when, I actually went to school with and even played with for a while, Maurice Cheeks. Well, Maurice Cheeks, good guy. But when Maurice started making the big money, and I'm talking about the big money, $600,000-$700,000 a year, when he was with the Sixers, first couple of years he wasn't making that kind of money. But by his 4th and 5th year, he was making that kind of money. Well, he practically had to go into hiding.
An interest story that was one of those things that just goes through the mind that blew my mind. But Brock Nelson, who played for the U.S. this year and got gold here in 2026, his grandfather was on the 1960 team that won gold in Squaw Valley, I believe it was.
Yes.
And then in his uncle and great uncle or something like that, his great uncle played on that 1960 team, but his uncle, Dave Christian, you'll probably remember, played on the 1980 Olympic team. So the U.S. has earned 3 gold medals in hockey ever, and his family has 4.
Wow.
A great legacy and a great human interest story. I just found that amazing.
Bo, you might be able to help me with my scatter shooting. It just occurred to me as the baseball season was beginning, R.I.P., rest in peace, Scott Wilson.
Wasn't
he the head of the Wild Bunch at the
Super
University
fan,
of Texas?
the Wild Bunch for years.
Here
I
was
think
a
at one
kid
time, Johnny,
that was in the University of Texas band, was at the game of the century back in 1961 at Arkansas, and never missed a game in just about all sports, which is, incredible.
I think it was like 2,600 games.
2,600 games.
Amazing.
And he passed away last October, I believe. And so this is the first season in Austin that Scott Wilson is not at the Longhorn baseball games. We can tell some funny stories about Scott Wilson. I remember coming out of Rosenblatt Stadium at the College World Series. He had a Cadillac, and I'm not going to make fun of him because I've got one just like it. I've got a 73 Cadillac Eldorado convertible with Longhorns on the front, and that's what he had. And he would travel all over the country supporting the Longhorns. And I remember coming out of Rosenblatt Stadium, walking through the parking lot, and there was Scott passed out in his back seat, snoozing before the games the next day. You got any good Scott Wilson stories?
Yeah, well, I know. Well, of course, he used to, walk up and down the aisles of Texas with the Wild Bunch and start the rhythmic clapping when Texas was behind. And one time, he found when the NCAA used to have hospitality rooms before lawyers outlawed them for possible liability for sending somebody home drunk, to be honest. But Scott somehow found out where the one was, the old Holiday Inn, out there on 72nd Street, and came up there with Coach Tommy Harmon. Tommy might have led him to it or whatever. They sat there and had a few cool pops with us and told some stories till about 3 a.m. And I think the hotel finally shut it down because of noise factors for adjoining guests. But Scott, amazing. He was an attorney, John. And I don't know when I'm trying to figure out when he ever went with the Texas State retirement system, which I'm amazed that thing's still functioning because I can't even remember a day where
he missed a game.
He must have gone into work at 5 a.m. and left at 2 o'clock. Yeah, so the Texas retirement system, I think.
Oh, yeah, was that one?
Yeah, I believe.
It's incredible. But anyway, rest in peace, Scott Wilson. I know that the Longhorns, will miss you. But I'm sure there's somebody out there that's looking to break his record for consecutive games. But that's what college athletics is all about. That's why I love college football more than just about any sport because, it's just an amazing thing that gets the emotional connection to people out there that pro sports just don't have. Guys, thanks for joining us again today, and for all the viewers out there. We'll be back next week, but it's always incredible to talk about sports and the background stories that make it headline material today. So thanks again for joining us for Sports USA, and be sure and monitor our website at sportsusa.com and our Facebook page and YouTube page, because we have streaming sports news on both of those, the website and Facebook, and you can keep track of a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about the next week. So long, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Take care. Bye, gentlemen.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of Sports USA, available at our website at sportswithaz-usa.com. And remember to click and favorite so you can join us next time on sportsusa.com.